For Chapter 8, we will be looking at seasonings, flavorings, and food additives. In Chapter 8, we are looking at 4 different classifications of seasonings or flavorings. Be able to correlate specific seasonings or flavorings with their associated classification. Differentiate the main functions of the main classifications that are discussed in this chapter. So seasonings, flavor enhancers, and spices and herbs. Understand the definition of a food additive and determine whether or not a certain food substance is a food additive. Know the designation that is associated with food additives. We discussed that in previous chapters. It's talked about a little bit more in detail later on at the end of this PowerPoint. Let's go back to the concept of taste and flavor. There are only 5 tastes, although some scientists will argue 6. There are only 5 that scientists agree on that humans can perceive. Taste is more scientific and is usually not the first thing that we associate a food with. When we think of a food, we think of its flavor. Unless, of course, it is loaded with salt or sugar, in which case that specific taste is overwhelming, and then we will correlate it with its taste. But that is rarely intended, and not the product of a well-prepared food. So ultimately, the goal of the person creating the food is to create a very optimal flavor. As we go through this chapter, remember this point. Ultimately, the goal of the chef or the cook is to create a food with delicious flavor. The natural flavors of certain foods can be very good by themselves, but in food preparation, we can manipulate. No, that's not a good word. We can adjust the flavor of foods to create optimal satisfaction by the person eating the food. So the goal of flavorings is to do 2 different things. They are 1, to enhance a food's natural flavor, and 2, to add flavor to a food that is not originally present. Both of these goals will ultimately increase the value of the food. The classifications of flavorings can be broken down into the top 4 main classifications: basic seasonings, flavor enhancers, spices and herbs, and flavor extracts. And lastly, we will talk about how we can add fruits and vegetables as flavorings to foods to maximize their flavor. This is where things get truly exciting, because this allows us to get really creative, maximizing both the nutrition and flavor of foods. Salt and pepper are the 2 most basic seasonings. Their main goal is to enhance flavor without being detected, meaning that they should not be overpowering. Salt and pepper bring out hidden flavors that may go unnoticed if they are not added to foods. Salt helps to reduce bitterness, and by doing so, allows other tastes and flavors to become more present. A great example is salt mixed with coffee. For you coffee drinkers, try adding a pinch of salt to your next cup of coffee. Outside of receiving a few funny looks from the people around you, you will notice that your coffee is a little less bitter. Salt also acts as a preservative in foods. And when you add salt, add it slowly and continue to taste the food. Although this is not well emphasized in many recipes, it is essential to add salt slowly, because this ensures that you do not add an excessive amount and can allow the salt to enhance the flavor without the person being able to detect the salt in the food. In addition to the other roles of pepper, pepper also adds flavor to foods. Many types of pepper exist, but consider that black pepper sticks out in non-dark foods. It can be visually unappealing and may subconsciously cause a person to have a lesser opinion of this food if they can see the black pepper flakes. For foods like mashed potatoes, white pepper may be more effective. Flavor enhancers are primarily responsible for bringing out a new flavor in the food that is originally present in the food. Let's take monosodium glutamate for example. You may have heard of this. Monosodium glutamate is also known as MSG, which is linked to many severe health risks. When used with meats, fish, or other meat products, it intensifies and brings out the umami taste that is associated with this food. Flavor enhancers are commonly related to amino acids. You can see below that all the flavor enhancers listed include glutamic acid. Spices and herbs are natural plant-based products. Their main function is to add flavor to foods, but without being overpowering. They do not necessarily need to be detectable. This is different from the basic seasonings and flavor enhancers because spices and herbs generally add flavor without bringing out flavor that is already in the food. Spices and herbs can also be used as preservatives just as salt. The most essential concept to understand from this PowerPoint slide is that spices and herbs are both natural plant-based products and they add flavor to the foods. The difference between spices and herbs is that spices are dried vegetable products and herbs are leaves and stems. Take a look at examples of each of these that are provided and try to notice these characteristics in each of these classifications. All flavor extracts come from plants that are aromatic or have a very pleasant and distinctive smell to them. Vanilla, lemon, orange, and almond extracts are all very common. Like spices and herbs, and in some cases the basic seasonings, flavor extracts add their own flavor to the foods that they are mixed with. Finally, we have fruits and vegetables. These are not commonly thought of as flavorings, but they certainly can add considerable flavor to the foods that they are used with if used correctly. Not only this, but they will provide health benefits through the vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients that they provide. Many vegetables are added to foods to enhance the taste of the final food product. Some of the more common ones are listed above. Consider the sharp, spicy flavor that is provided by onions, or the juiciness that is added by bell peppers. Tomatoes offer a bit more complicated, acidic flavor. A great way to see the way that flavor is added by vegetables is to prepare a vegetable soup with tomato puree, water, and just vegetables. Cook the soup and allow it to sit for a few hours, refrigerated of course. The flavors from each of the vegetables will be released and mixed into the soup to create a delicious final product, even if you do not add other spices and seasonings. Fruits are especially compatible with savory, salt, hot, and sweet foods, and certain types of fruits work well in different recipes. Now here's a bit of advanced nutrition. You all know that fruits and vegetables provide many health benefits. We all know that they have vitamins and minerals which will help bodily functions work normally. They contain fiber, which helps to improve the health of our heart by picking away at any plaque that is built up in our arteries. This reduces risk for heart attacks. They contain antioxidants, which help prevent against cancer. Have you heard of phytochemicals or phytonutrients? Now, you do not need to know this for the exam, but if you would like to have a better grasp on why fruits and vegetables are so good for us and recommended by everybody, review this link. With all the information discussed on this slide, consider all of the benefits you can provide for yourself by adding the right tastes and nutrition from fruits and vegetables as flavorings into your meals. A food additive is defined as any substance that is added to food, whether that be directly or indirectly. Food additives may add flavor, act as a preservative, improve appearance, serve a role in the cooking or baking process, or perform a number of other functions. Generally, the food additives that we know of are added to a food directly because they are intended to be added to foods. Indirect food additives, on the other hand, are things that are added to foods through packaging and processing that are generally not intended to be added to the food. Direct additives are listed on this page. Given the number and variety of different types of food additives, you will be able to see that the term food additive is as simple as it sounds. It is pretty much anything that is added to foods. We have already talked briefly about the GRAS designation. All food additives that are allowed in our foods are given this designation. This means exactly what it sounds like. Overall, they are safe for consumption. But there is some foods or food additives with more certainty regarding their safety than others. There are plenty of GRAS additives that are very safe for consumption, such as ascorbic acid or vitamin C, which can be added to increase the nutritional value of a food or to act as a preservative. Salt and spices will both act as flavorings or preservatives. Egg yolks emulsify or hold together unstable fat-based mixtures. All of these are relatively risk-free. At the same time, there are a few that are given this designation but may still pose health risks. With yellow 5, there is a risk of cancer, development of allergies, hyperactivity, and many other behavioral complications that may be linked to its intake. Monosodium glutamate, or MSG, is linked to the overstimulation of the nervous system, which can cause burning sensations in the body, headaches, difficulty sleeping, and MSG may also be linked to brain damage and even cancer. There are many health complications linked to aspartame as well as cancer. If foods do not meet this designation, they are not allowed in our food supply. We understand that. But again, there are still foods that have the GRAS designation that may still cause health complications. Please be mindful of this.